Now, the White House says that US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin have agreed to seek a limited ceasefire in Ukraine after holding talks over the phone. The Kremlin has confirmed that the two leaders agreed to pursue a ceasefire on energy and infrastructure targets. Under that proposal, both Russia and Ukraine would stop hitting each other's energy infrastructure for 30 days. The US says the next step will be technical negotiations to implement a ceasefire in the Black Sea and work towards a permanent peace. Let's get the view from Ukraine with DW's Nick Connolly, who's reporting from Kyiv. Nick, so we're hearing that Putin has agreed to a limited ceasefire. Tell us more about what that actually means.
And I think it's really important to really underline here that this is very, very minimal. There are still Russian drones flying around in the Kyiv region, not far from where we are here in Kyiv right now. This is only about infrastructure. This is not even the partial ceasefire that Macron had suggested, where there was talk of no more attacks at sea and in the air, and only basically allowing the fighting on the front lines to continue. This is just about energy and is basically, seemingly from Ukraine's perspective, about Putin not wanting to be blamed by Trump for this, basically saying no to a ceasefire, wanting to give Donald Trump a win, but effectively giving him very, very limited concessions. Basically, the winter is over. Ukraine's energy infrastructure has largely survived. So to say, oh, I'm not going to attack those power plants now that spring is about to arrive is a pretty minimal concession, but a concession that obviously Trump will sell as a big win. There's also talk of some kind of negotiations about the Black Sea, where the Russian fleet has had to basically withdraw from Crimea because of Ukrainian drones, and where Ukraine has been able to reopen its ports without Russian approval. So it is for now like, you know, a scene in which Russia is trying to not be blamed, to not be on the wrong side of the blame game with Trump, but actually hasn't agreed to a great deal.
Have there been any reactions so far from Ukraine to this call?
So it's still a bit early. Everyone's trying to digest what exactly this means. We've seen the readouts now from the American side, and we've also seen the Russian state media talking about this. But I think from a Ukrainian perspective, it could have been worse. It could have been, you know, we'd seen Putin pushing, at least based on reporting, that the Americans basically halt all military aid to Ukraine for the duration of a ceasefire. That hasn't happened. We haven't seen Trump sign away Ukrainian territory, but it certainly isn't the big bang. And I think from Ukraine's perspective, this is all about Trump basically learning now with his own efforts that ending this war is not going to be as easy as he'd been promising during the election campaign, that Putin, for all his kind of camaraderie and compliments towards Trump, isn't willing to give everything up in a hurry without anything in return.
So we're talking here about a 30-day ceasefire. The White House did also announce fresh Ukraine talks will start immediately in the Middle East. Does that give any hope of the parties reaching a longer-term deal?
I think from a Ukrainian perspective, there is fairly little hope that this is going to go anywhere. They see what Vladimir Putin and the people around him keep on saying. They are still basically demanding all the same things they were demanding back in 22 when they invaded Ukraine. They're still talking about Ukraine basically being a historical mistake. They say that large swathes of Ukraine, if not all of it, should belong to Russia. They talk about basically disarming Ukraine after any ceasefire, reducing the size of its army, making Ukraine promise never to join any alliances, which would basically leave Ukraine open to a renewed aggression sometime down the line when the West maybe is more distracted than it is right now. So they're not seeing, from Ukraine's perspective here, any sign that Moscow is really serious about ending these hostilities in the long term.
Nick Connolly in Kyiv. Nick, thank you. And joining me now from Kyiv is Rudik, who's a member of the Ukrainian Parliament and leader of the opposition Golos party. Welcome to DW. Both the US and Russia are saying that Putin has agreed to stop attacking Ukrainian energy infrastructure for 30 days. Can I start by asking you what your reaction is to that?
Hello, Anya, and thank you so much for having me. I don't know if you can hear it right now, but there is an air raid siren that was just turned on, which means that Kyiv is under attack. So this is my reaction to it. I don't know what these words mean. Because we don't see the result of it, and we see that the attacks continue. Maybe where we live is not energy infrastructure, and this is why they keep attacking us, hoping just to kill people and not attack critical infrastructure. We don't know that. But I would urge all the world leaders and our viewers to trust only actions and not the words. This is the best way. And I can tell you that today in the morning, there was an attack on Kyiv when the drone fell on the schoolyard, when kids were at school. And right now the attacks continue. So it's very hard to say if what Putin told President Trump will result in any actions, in any stopping of the fighting.
What do you make of the Kremlin saying that there has to be an end to Ukrainian mobilization and the arming of Ukraine in the context of a wider ceasefire deal?
That Russia's goal didn't change, and they were very open about it since the beginning of full-scale invasion and early since 2014. They wanted Ukraine to be unarmed, to be helpless, and to be destroyed as a state, so Russia can conquer us. So this is what they are openly saying right now, that they want us to stop mobilizing people to fight against them, and they want us to be unarmed. It's not a surprise.
Mm-hmm. Putin's envoy says the world has become a much safer place today because of the Russian and the US presidents. From what you were saying, it doesn't feel like that at all in Kyiv. So has this, or do you think that this Trump-Putin call has brought the end of the war in Ukraine any closer at all?
I think perhaps after today's call, President Trump will realize that Ukraine is the only side here that actually wants peace. We have been very clear about that. We have agreed to a 30-day ceasefire, and we were waiting for Russia to do the same. And obviously, there was not like an agreement of full ceasefire from Russian side. I hope that it will allow President Trump to move forward with stronger political decisions. Because you see, it was pretty easy to pressure Ukraine into sitting at the table of negotiation, because we rely on the United States for the military aid and intelligence. Let's see what is in the toolbox for President Trump in terms of pressuring Russia into doing what he needs and what the world needs. As of right now, I don't think that we have seen that working just yet.
Mm-hmm. So you've seen no sign today that Putin is serious at all about ending the war?
We haven't seen any of that signs even before, and we were very open, and President Zelensky was very open about that to President Trump when they were talking in Oval Office. And this is what we were trying to deliver since the beginning of these negotiations. Look, the Ukraine is not the problem. The keys to ending the war are in Kremlin. If Russia will stop attacking us and pull back their troops, there will be no war. If we will stop defending ourselves, there will be no Ukraine, no our nation.
Why do you think the Trump administration was so convinced it could talk Putin into accepting its ceasefire proposals?
Well, I think there are illusions that you can talk to terrorists and persuade him. I think these illusions were very dangerous for many US presidents. If you look back, almost every single president would come and say, oh, we want to reload our relations with Russia, there will be a new page, and we will try to make some deals and move forward in a constructive manner. But the truth is, it never worked. Russia became only stronger. They were having more markets open. They started producing sophisticated weapons and supplies. And they're openly working with Iran, China, and North Korea. And so right now, I think it could have been a very good result that President Trump wanted to deliver, but I think he didn't realize how complicated it would be to deliver.
In Ukraine, does anyone have any faith in this process, given how it's been carried out?
Well, I think the key question is if we can have like a minimal steps, like, for example, returning or exchanging some prisoners of war or returning some Ukrainian children that were kidnapped by Russia. And even if this whole process was only to deliver that, I think we all need to be in it, right? Like, we all need to work hard to get that delivered. We do not believe that you can trust Russia because we have seen it and we have learned it the hard way. But we are really caring about all our citizens, and we want to get of this the best that we can, at least for some families.
Ukrainian MP Kira Rudik. Kira, thank you so much for joining us on the programme today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, and glory to Ukraine.